so too, but in consideration of Nancy, I'm just gonna wait a minute or two and let her get here and.
Sounds like someone's coming. Ta-da!
She blew in.
Safe and sound.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
That might be the
Not, but
press.
that's all right.
Maybe Marty or John.
Hi, Nancy.
No, Kirsten?
I like your coat,
Is,
Nancy.
gonna be home this evening and Maureen will not be here either.
She's not coming in tonight, right?
Kirsten and Maureen will not be here.
Oh, okay.
Maureen's car is not good in the snow and Kirsten, didn't wanna brave Littleton Road. So, it's just us. I'll give you a minute to get settled and then we'll jump in. Yeah, no worries.
Dive in, go ahead.
Okay, all right. I would like to call tonight's school committee meeting to order. And since there's no public commentary at the moment, I don't need to let people know that it's being taped, but it is being taped, just so you know. Who would like to read the vision statement? Linda, how about you?
Sure, be happy to.
All right.
The Harvard Public Schools community, a leader in educational excellence, guides each student to realize his or her highest potential by balancing academic achievement with personal well-being in the pursuit of individual dreams. The students engage in learning how to access and apply knowledge, think critically and creatively, and communicate effectively. They continue to develop the confidence and ability to collaborate, contribute, and adapt in an ever-changing world.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so we're going to skip over our student report for the evening. And Linda, I think you can jump right in with your superintendent's report.
Okay, great. So first on the report was the fact that Sue Frederick and I attended the MSBA event in Lexington.
Yeah.
And that was well attended. In fact, they said it was the largest crowd they had had for one of those events. And I think it was their 15th time doing it. So there were over 100 people in the room, and it was a mix of school district people, principals, superintendents, business managers, town managers, school committee members, architects and project managers, and really anyone else interested in the whole idea of building a school.
Was it just people who've been accepted into the program, or anybody could go?
Anybody could go. The room was mostly filled with people who SOI had been accepted.
Okay.
Because then they held panel discussions, and the panel discussion was largely about different aspects of the moving the project forward.
Right.
So they talked a lot about the cooperation between the different entities, the town working with the schools and so forth. And then they again put another big emphasis on the educational plan and visioning. So their recommendation is for us not only to have a building committee, but also to have a visioning committee. And that visioning committee would talk about what could that part of the school be like if it was really the best for student learning. So some of the things that they showed as examples were classrooms are now often having a group space outside of them, so that there's more chance for collaborating with students from multiple classrooms. So even the school that we visited, which was a brand new school in Lexington, had 2 classrooms and then a joint space out, like almost in the hallway, but not the hallway. And so they're talking about that kind of collaborative space being more popular. And so that was one of the things that they talked about. But your visioning would include, how would you want technology to be in that room? How would you want? And so I'm excited that we could form maybe not only a subcommittee of this group for the building, but also a subcommittee of this group for the visioning. And that's one of the steps that has to be, that plan, the educational plan, has to be turned in before we move to the next phase.
Right.
So
We're going to go over that in the agenda, right? Sort of the next steps on the K-wing, or the subcommittee and all that stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Project manager Elena was there, and so we were able to speak with her a little bit. The professional development day evaluations I did include in the packet, and, our leadership team is going to take a closer look at them. They haven't been shared out. We're going to look at them this Thursday when we have our leadership team meeting, just to see what we can glean from it. But overall, the teachers were pleased with the type of day that it was, which was curriculum work by grade levels or departments in the morning of a variety of types, and then sessions held by their colleagues in the afternoon, which led to some cross-district groupings and really helped us to take advantage of the expertise of some of the staff members who have gone to more training in certain areas. And I had passed a couple of those topics to you last time. Parking lot, I have the new plan, the modified plan here, if anyone wants to take a look afterwards. But Rob Oliva from Ross Associates led each of the groups to a positive vote, which was great. I wrote him a card on our behalf today. Just, I think, not only were his plans good from the beginning, he listened to modifications, made them, and explained everything very clearly. And so each of the groups were clear to go.
Yeah, I have to underscore his expertise and professionalism. He was outstanding in all of the meetings. He was great. So I'm glad you wrote him a thank you note.
Yeah, I thought he really went above and beyond. And so Rich Noda, when he comes back from South Carolina, where he is right now, as I called him this morning, out of the snow, he'll be preparing for that RFP for us and sending it to us for review. The Most Likely to Succeed movie, interesting. Both Jim and I saw it at Devon's at the Parker School, and there were several other families from Harvard there, including 2 members of the Harvard Schools Trust. They're interested in having a conversation since viewing it as to whether they would want to bring it to the Harvard community. And then we went to the MSBA Build a School Day, and they showed the same movie. And so then Sue and I saw it, and I saw it for the second time. So what I thought was very interesting about that is MSBA is linking that to the educational visioning and planning that is possible for schools as they look to build that idea of those collaboration spaces and viewing things a bit differently. And really the whole premise of the movie, as it followed some kids through their projects in high school at this high-tech high, was meaningful learning done where the subjects are integrated, and just how much more students will remember and dive into something that they have ownership of. Their idea for assessment is, rather than have assessments, is to put the students' work on display, where they are describing it to the community and to their parents, which is in itself very motivating for the students. While they are a public school, it appeared that they are a charter public school that does not have the same testing requirements nor teacher contract requirements of a regular traditional school. So what our leadership team is kind of gleaning from the book and from the movie is that we could certainly learn to do more integration and meaningful learning for students, because that's, proven to be effective. But our constraints are different than what they have. Our subjects are separated, and even they are coming into some difficulty with transcripts. And they talked about how colleges are looking for a specific thing and they're providing something different, so there's a mismatch there. So it went into the problems of that type of learning and the benefits, and there were certainly some of both. There were, hi Marty. Some students aren't motivated to learn that way either. And there was certainly one student in their example who couldn't get the project done, who just it didn't work well for him. And so that's true too. And it was a good, at Parker School there was a discussion that followed the movie. And of course most of those parents in the audience, which wasn't real well attended, were already doing an alternative type education, in that their children were mostly attending Parker School. So it was good to learn from, for sure. the trip to Greece is leaving next week. Bryce, Jim, and I were supposed to meet today. I did receive the packet from Bryce, as she is the organizer, with all the contact information, all the student information, and all the details of the itinerary. But Jim and I still plan to meet with her just to double check. There are only 9 students going. So one of my questions to Bryce will be, wow, that's not very many, and there's 2 staff members going. So that ratio seems a little off to me.
I wonder why there are only 9.
Don't know. Whether it was the price, it was the commitment, it was the, I don't know. But that seems,
She
I
definitely
think she took
projected a
a,
higher number when she was here.
certainly, and I think when they went to, did they go to Russia a few years ago? I think that group was larger.
Yeah,
Yes, it was.
They actually also went to Italy.
Okay. Was that a UN also?
Yep.
Model UN?
That was 2.
Interesting.
There should be a minimum for these big
Right.
trips.
It's a big resource. I mean, it's a huge draw on the resources.
I know Harvard Schools Trust, granted them some money, and,
They probably did a fundraiser. Price went as a junior, and they had like a spaghetti dinner with a silent auction and raffle
I
baskets.
remember
so
that, yes.
Yeah. I don't know if they did that this year.
I don't know either.
So the question, is that 2 plus Miss Maddie, or 2 including?
No,
that?
including Maddie. Yeah, it's Mrs. Tuttle, Charlene Tuttle, and Bryce Maddie that are chaperones. So I'll find out more. So unfortunately, I didn't have that meeting today, so we'll find out more details. Science lab furniture update. There is a meeting planned for this Wednesday where the vendor who has given us some plans will give us more detail as to the cost and details about those plans. All we got was, some pretty rough sketches. Another vendor came through today and looked at the rooms and will be also getting us some plans and prices. So that will be coming.
So a question on that?
Sure.
These designs that were put together, were they put together just independently by the vendor, or do they get any information from the science department on what the science department would like to achieve in terms of the type of activities they have, the labs, and?
Yeah, we had a meeting, I think you were unable to attend because you were out of town, but at that
Okay.
meeting, there was input to the vendor before
I see.
giving us the plan,
I
so.
see. Okay, thank you.
Yep, they walked through the rooms, talked with the teachers that have those rooms. They definitely had time with the department chair, so yes.
Okay.
Although I think there would be several loops return on what's to happen on Wednesday still.
Mm-hmm.
And Deb will be representing the department at that meeting on Wednesday.
Great, thank you.
So, yep.
Anything else?
Believe that's it.
Okay, all right. All right, so next is to vote to sign the MSBA initial compliance certification. So there's I don't know how much documentation has gone out, but there is the timeline, I think that was either in the last packet or sent out to members, showing the different steps that we need to take. We have 270 days to secure the financing and get a whole bunch of documents in. One of the first steps is this initial compliance certification, which both Linda and the chair of the school committee need to sign. So I was not comfortable signing anything without a vote, even though in essence everyone's already approved the project. I wanted to have that be an official vote of the committee. So there are 3 copies in it here that will be signed, but does anybody have questions about the ICC and that was in the packet? Did anyone have questions about it?
I only had one, and it's 33.
Yep.
What are the incentive reimbursement points? And, I mean, is that something in addition, like additional reimbursement if we can get those points? I just didn't know if that was, that's the only thing that really,
Yep, I can answer that. They explained that when I went down to Boston. When they go to give us the construction reimbursement rate, in between now and then, there's these chances, depending on which way you go with your plans, to earn incentive points. So they haven't described yet what those incentive points
Okay.
are going to be for, because they're actually revamping them. So things
Okay.
that maybe got incentive points before are being changed, and they said that would be changed by the time we get into that process. But some of the, just going to kind of make one up, but it was one they gave as an example. So certain types of technology infusion could give you incentive points, or certain types of collaborative spaces, like we just talked about, could give you incentive points. So, they're
Okay.
looking to up the reimbursement if the design is including some things that they find to be important
Okay.
for education. Not a lot, though. I mean, they weren't
Yeah.
saying that we'd go from what we're at up to 70, or,
Yeah.
they're just
Right.
tiny points or fractions of a point you
Okay.
get for things, so.
Okay.
And I don't know if that was the case back when the other project was done, and if you know or not.
No, it wasn't,
Okay.
because back then, it was almost entirely economic, and you could just go online and here it is. It
Okay.
wasn't like, well, we can make it more green and pick up another point or
Yeah.
two. It was like, the
Green's
town of
another
Harvard is
example. Yep.
61% or whatever it was back then.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
so when everything got switched around and MSBA took over, they really fine-tuned it and, tried to make it a little more fair, I think.
Mhm.
But before it was, you could just look up online, here's our percentage.
Okay. Yeah, and a good example, the green was
Yeah.
another way to get
Yeah.
incentive points.
I was pleasantly surprised to see them pushing that and really be advocate for environmentally sustainable building, which is great. And 50 minimum of 50 years, life
Mhm.
of the building, and
Yeah.
so.
The school we visited was LEED Silver,
Mm,
so, yeah,
That's not a small feat.
that is not.
Any other questions on the ICC? Jennifer, good?
No.
Okay, I need a motion to authorize the chair to sign it.
I make a motion to authorize Chair Susan Mary Renninger to sign the MSBCA
ICC.
Initial compliance.
Initial
Initial
compliance certification. Right here.
compliance certification. Thank you.
Okay.
Good old paper.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, I'll do that after. I'm not gonna take, but that will be done. Okay. So then moving right along the same topic is the K-Wing Public Forum Planning and Subcommittee forms. There's a couple steps, and actually before we do that, I want to start getting people's minds into expanding what we're calling this. We've been calling it the K-Wing renovation, but MSBA is approaching this from a building renovation, not just the K-Wing. So in order for us to get the public informed about that, I think it would be useful for us to start calling it the HES renovation, and make that connection for people that it could include more than the K-Wing. So if we get to town meeting in a year and our plan to move forward is including parts of the school, not just the K-Wing, that there's no surprise for people. So Linda had picked a date for a public forum on the HES renovation, which is February 25th, right?
Yep.
And that will be held at HES, the first of many, I'm assuming, public outreach attempts. This is important that we get the message out to the community of why this is being done, why it's important. They will be asking to support a warrant article and a ballot question of $500,000 gross, so the net cost to the town would be somewhere in the realm of 267, I think it was. So we want to make sure people are informed about what it is, that they're, again, it's always a tricky line with, it's a hazard in the schools, it's not a risk because of all the things that we put in place, but why we're doing it, et cetera. So I'm hoping people can be there, but and Linda felt it was important to get a date out there, broadcasted, so
7 p.m.?
we'll plan future meetings around people's schedules, but can anyone be there on the 25th?
Should be able to.
I should too.
Okay.
That's a Wednesday?
It's a Thursday, because it's
Thursday?
26th is the
Right
science
behind-
fair, right?
You're right. Oh, Science Fair is Friday.
Right behind you.
Friday.
Right.
So it's Thursday.
Right, the day before.
So it's a Thursday.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you can be there, what time, Linda?
7.
Okay, and are you and Sue leading it? How are you divvying it up?
We will be prepared to lead it.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you have the PowerPoint that you've already prepared. Are you adding to that?
Yep,
and
definitely.
The process,
A
timeline
lot
and
more
everything?
information that we have, but, we'll try to keep the session about giving information to maybe 15 minutes or so, and then open it up for questions. And last time we did that, there was quite a dialogue that just happened after that.
Yeah.
So it's good.
So 7
And then
PM,
we'll do
February
tours
25th at
also.
HES. And tours, right?
Yeah.
And we'll have the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And, okay, great. Questions about that evening or suggestions about things to include there? So Linda can,
Is that when you're going to introduce this idea of it being a HES renovation or HES improvement?
Yeah, we're going to change the communication out from here on.
Okay, all right.
Yes, but I think there are some key people that know that wing is the
Right.
impetus to the project, yeah.
I think it's important. It's just once you do a certain amount of a project, the building needs to be upgraded. So no matter what, we are going into parts of HES, not just that wing. So there's ADA, there's sprinklers, there's
Energy.
code compliance stuff, so. Anything you need from us, Linda, for that evening?
No, I don't think so. I think, the fact that you'll be there, that'll be great. And therefore, if questions come up, anyone can answer.
Okay.
For sure.
And town meeting is April
5th and 6th.
5th and 6th, right?
There's 2 other things planned,
Yeah.
which any of you are welcome to come to. I was going to visit the Hildreth House
Oh, that's right.
for lunch, just to let them ask questions and share a little bit of information. And that is March, I want to say March 11th, but it may be the 3rd. Let me just double check. It's the 3rd. It's a Thursday at noon.
Okay,
I was going to visit them.
great.
And then I have reached out to the village, haven't heard back yet from them, but it was only on Friday that I reached out to see if they
Great
wanted
idea.
me to come and, talk with families that have
Pilsners?
children there. Mhm.
Oh, yeah, I got that, thank
Okay.
you.
Sure.
I
Yeah,
can
please.
mention it to Erin.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Figure there's quite a few parents that don't have their children at HES, but this building project would be about certainly their children coming
Sure.
in. And then, that, I think, was it.
And Devon's, I thought you were going to hold one up at Devon's.
Yes, I did reach out to Maureen to schedule that.
Okay.
And haven't heard back from her yet.
Okay. Okay, great. Any other, I think that we could certainly write something up for PTO News Blast. That may coincide with a newsletter topic later on, but I'm happy to write something up for that unless someone else wants to run with it.
I think they ran
I think it's good to
public forum.
Notice about the meeting.
notice about the meeting,
Right.
but,
Yeah.
when
Other things,
we were
sure.
doing the superintendent search, we used to put something in
Updates.
every
It's great.
other week kind of thing as an update, so.
That's great, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any other suggestions of getting the news out there?
Well, in terms of current parents, the messages from the principals, I think, work well.
Mm-hmm.
Messages from each principal to their parent community, but then this needs, obviously, the larger
Right.
community of taxpayers who don't have children in school as well.
I know that Sue sent something out, but I don't think that Jim did, so I'll have him do that as well.
I think included in that is, please, a request to attend all town meeting,
Mm-hmm.
because there will be a
Right.
vote there.
That's a really, yeah. good point.
And speaking of which, childcare services, usually the Honor Society does that, but it's a little loose as to who organizes it.
Okay. You talking about all town meeting, or are you talking about, okay.
Yeah, I think if people knew that that was,
It'd be really smart for us to do
a
that.
solid option for them.
Yes, that would be.
Right,
to
yeah,
our
they can block
benefit.
off that time to be at that
Mhm.
meeting.
Is Kelly still the advisor for that? Could we-
National Honor Society, yes.
Could you
Yeah.
reach out to
Yep,
her?
I can.
Okay, great.
Usually Julie, Janet Valente does, but I can do it before her and make sure we have it.
Sometimes she's thought we were doing it, and we
Oh,
thought she was doing it, and nobody did it, and
I will contact
that'd be great.
Kelly.
All right. Any other ideas?
So the 5th and 6th, so it's evenings?
Yeah.
This time?
Yep. Starting
The
at,
idea would be when we get to the newsletter,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if did that go out to all residents of town, or was
Mhm.
that just
There
to
was
the
a mailed
schools?
thing that went
So
out.
then you could include something there, and
If we do
everybody
that.
would get it.
Yeah, that would be, definitely, I would include it in something like that. Okay. Okay, and now, Linda, do you have the parameters on the subcommittee? There's a couple different things you have to form, right?
there are, there's the school building committee,
Right.
which Lorraine and I went over today, has a set group of people that need to be on it. And certainly, it has a chair of the school committee, and we can add members to that,
Okay.
other members of the school committee. And then this idea of a visioning group,
Right.
you know, which would have a diverse set of people on it.
Okay.
And I think that would be great to have several members or a couple of members from here. So I'm thinking, 2 on the building and 2 on visioning.
Okay.
It could be a repeat of those people, but it would be great to have some.
So then there's also, what I think we need is a subcommittee of this committee to be the building committee subcommittee. Because I know it sounds like, there's too many things. Well, so you have I think your visioning committee is going to be larger,
Yes.
right? And obviously the school building committee is going to be larger. But I think there may be times where a subcommittee may need to move forward on things or coordinate things, just like there's a finance committee, just like there's a policy subcommittee. I think it might make sense for us to have a building subcommittee.
Except that
We can't be a quorum?
No, you'd have to have 2 members on it.
I would think those 2 members, though, would sit on the larger school building committee. Same ones, because it's going to get a little difficult for those people to be informed about what that group, they may meet more often
Yeah.
than just those big meetings, which all meetings will still have to be posted, so.
Right, but then you can't, I'm thinking, meet as that big committee unless you have a quorum of members. And so then therefore does.
No, you're not supposed to have a quorum of members.
But you wouldn't call a meeting of that committee and then only have the 2 school committee members meet.
Well, which, are you talking about the bigger meeting or the littler meeting now?
The bigger, I
The
think she's
bigger
talking
meeting, yeah,
about
the bigger meeting, I think you'd still need a quorum to meet.
Quorum.
Yeah.
Well, that school building, the one that's defined by
Yeah.
that.
You and the engineer and me and
Yeah, I
everybody
don't
else.
think that's supposed
And
to
what
have
was
a
the,
quorum of
what was the
school
total
committee.
number of people?
Oh, no,
So
not
that was
the
supposed to be
quorum
the
of the,
committee.
of the group.
Wasn't it?
On that-
A
the
quorum
school committee.
of that
Yeah, that
group?
was a long
Yes.
list,
Yes.
as I
Larger.
recall.
Yeah, I think
So that's what you're saying, might
means.
be tough to
Okay.
get a quorum of that big group.
Quorum of that group, yeah.
Yes, yes.
So you could have our subcommittee be someone from the visioning and someone from the building committee, or you could just have the 2 people who are on the building committee. But I think it might facilitate some communication between there, and then that subcommittee would always be responsible for getting the news back to the school committee. And you can't operate with any authority because it's 2 of you. But I'm wondering if it would make sense to have a subcommittee, a building subcommittee for,
It sounds to me like the same role really as a liaison.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe co-liaisons from the school committee that are going to attend as many of your larger meetings as they can and
yeah.
report back to this group and just serve sort of a coordination function.
You could do that.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yep. And
Big no sign.
I don't know whether it makes sense to have just, as I said, one from visioning and one from, it'd be good to kind of have some cross, I think.
Right, I
And-
agree.
Mhm.
So, and I think there's opportunities for 2 people to do the vision and 2 other people to do the building subcommittee, if people can do
So
that.
you're thinking there would be
And there's a,
those 2,
yeah.
so that's 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Well, 4.
And
And then another meeting.
It may be irrelevant, but I know there are times where we have had to have smaller conversations with a finance subcommittee, and it facilitates things moving forward. So,
I'm not opposed to that. I just think that you've got, and maybe it doesn't need to involve me, but I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of meetings.
Well, there may
Um,
not be. There may not be. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, I just kind of put it
Yeah.
out there. We have a policy subcommittee, we had the user fees subcommittee, we had,
I think definitely a building subcommittee.
okay. And those
Uh,
two
so
members,
it's
that's
two,
two members
yeah.
of the school committee.
Yep,
And then those two members go to that bigger thing.
Yep.
Okay, so you're now
Same.
agreeing with what I'm saying?
yeah, as
Okay.
long as it's the same group,
Yes.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But then you have two other people on the school committee who are part of the visioning subcommittee.
Or it could be the
visioning
same
committee.
ones.
It could be the
Could
same
be the
ones,
same,
because
but-
really the building issues, they seem to overlap with the vision.
Yep.
As you're describing the space, you're going to have this possibly additional space outside the classroom, while your building person has to be taking that into account.
Yeah.
As, it's part of the vision, but you have to structurally take
Yep.
that into account when you're talking about the building.
Yeah.
So it does sound like it would be efficient really to have the same people involved with both, if they have the
Bandwidth.
bandwidth to attend the meetings for both of those topics.
Okay.
Does
Yes,
that mean there would be 4 members?
No, it would be 2
I
members.
see it more
Just-
as, well, how many we only have 5
Five.
members.
We can't have 4, I think, without it
Not on the
becoming an
same
official-
meeting.
Can't have
Yeah.
more than 2 on any committee.
Okay, okay.
So
So
it'd
to
be two.
find out maybe what the aptitude is, if someone.
Right. So
you
is
know,
there,
So we got 5
of the
people.
3 of you, because I'm pretty sure I'm on it by virtue of the
Doing
nature.
both?
Okay, so you're already.
I'm already on the building subcommittee. So is there, out of the 3 of you, is there one person who wants to do the other spot and do both? Or should we have 2 or 3 or 4 people kind of
Right.
involved?
Okay, that's good.
I would do either one,
You would do,
visionary or building.
okay.
So however,
Great.
I'm more leery of the visioning just because,
Except you were great on the district visioning.
I mean, I kind of like that idea, even, I guess it's also like maybe more of a challenging thing for me, but that's maybe what attracts me to it. But if either of you two have a preference, take that into account too.
And Kirsten's not here.
But
Well,
she'll
she's
be
going
going
off.
off.
Oh, yes, right.
So I don't think it
That's
makes
right.
sense to put her on
Right,
any
right.
committee.
I feel the
What's your
same as
preference?
Mary, that I could kind of happily be in either. I mean, maybe the visionary subcommittee is interesting because it's different. But I'm happy to be put where I'm most needed. Yeah.
I mean, I would say the same. Maybe we could start off and have Mary or both of you be leads, and then see what else is needed from the group. See if you need additional support, and if one area is more busy than the other. I mean, personally, I think the visionary is a very interesting aspect of it, and I like the thought of thinking about different ways you can use the space as the district changes over time. So I think that would be a very interesting, important part. I'd probably have a little bit more background on sort of the building aspect of it,
Mhm.
but maybe you could take the lead, and maybe Jennifer wants to take a co-lead and see if you need additional support from the committee.
Or who are you thinking, or
Alternative
like how many
solutions.
other
For the visioning or for the other?
individuals for the visioning?
I'm thinking, and I haven't really laid it out too much, but, about 20, less than 20 maybe. So
Okay.
I'm thinking of it very similarly to the way we came up with the vision statement and so there'd be some group work, there'd be coming back together, there'd be
Mhm.
thoughts.
Mhm.
Certainly want time to go back to the staff and the students. They talked about involving students and what do they see would be really great for their space, so we can,
Mhm.
get them involved as well. So I think it's going to be fun. It's always also going to be a little messy like the other one was, but
Right.
I like those kind of meetings.
Mhm.
because it is very exciting.
Do you see it being that it's sort of the front load and you develop the vision and then that group is done? Or is this a group that then weighs in on all aspects of the building?
Well, their role will be to help write the ed plan, which has a formula to it.
Okay.
That has to be submitted. And then the architects and the MSBA work with that plan
Okay,
to
so
help
that's a
you to-
shorter
So it is a
term.
shorter term.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, the ed plan is due when?
Officially, I don't have that drive open right now.
Was it in the
I
document?
think it's May, possibly May.
Is that the one that-
My hope is to have everything done by the end of April.
Okay, so the vision is short-term.
Yeah.
Of
But then
this step.
we could go right on to the, the other one.
Other stuff, okay. Okay, so I'm not sure what I heard. Who would like to do it?
Why don't we?
I'll put one on building, one on vision, and
Okay.
Sure.
you or something.
So I'm unclear. What's happening? Who's doing what?
No, I was pointing, so.
Everybody's pointing.
Mary's pointing, Linda's pointing, okay. So I'm on the building committee. And you're on,
I don't know.
take a jump to staff. Building or vision?
A vision.
Okay, you're on.
Is there a choice, or do I just,
If you have a choice, what would it be?
I guess I would choose vision.
Okay. And Nancy, if you had a choice?
Whatever you need me to do is fine.
You're giving us way too much freedom, Susan Mary.
Well, I can't, I'm not going to appoint, I could appoint, I guess, but actually the chair does have the ability to appoint people to the subcommittee, right? Okay, so let's
Sounds like
start
we have
off
two for
with,
vision,
two for vision and two for the
Sounds like you
building.
need somebody else for building, so.
I do. And if-
I'd be glad to try to help with
That'd
that.
be awesome.
I think Mary's point is true, that one is gonna,
Morph into the
one's,
other.
yeah, it's like a little Venn diagram of
Right.
subcommittees, and we'll overlap and go to the.
Right.
yeah,
Great.
good.
Okay,
In which case,
Can
then only
move
one
over.
of you would assist Susan Mary when you get to the building
Right,
aspect.
Right.
right.
Because you couldn't have three.
Right, couldn't have three, but if that's
Right.
necessary,
So
then.
you can start off, actually, even with the visionary, right? You're going to attend the visionary meetings
I
also?
would not, because then it would
You
be
will
three
not.
people,
Oh,
and we
okay.
can't do that.
Right.
Right.
Okay,
So-
so Mary and Jennifer will attend visionary.
Yep.
Okay.
Susan Mary, and then depending on the timing of it, Susan Mary will attend building either with Mary or Jennifer or me,
Great.
depending on the timing of it.
Well,
Great.
thank you.
Okay.
And it is due May 10th officially?
May 10th, okay. And you're going to have it done by April
End of
something?
April.
Okay.
What's due May 10th, sorry?
The vision, education
The
plan.
whole ed plan,
The ed
which
plan is- okay.
includes the vision. yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
Great, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Next is the district improvement plan update.
All right. Let me open that. There it is. Sorry.
It's okay, I'm trying to find notability on my computer. There it is, okay.
Might be easy if I had a paper copy. Do you have one with you?
No, I don't.
All right, so this is the same district improvement plan that we've been working on since the beginning of last year. And so it is the mid-year update, but it has on it already what was completed in those areas to date by the end of last year. So it's a continuation of that document. And the, you'll hear things that are very similar to the principal's school improvement plans, because as it's supposed to be, it's worked from the vision and mission statement of the district and the core value statements, and then the district improvement plan is worked on by the leadership team. And then the school improvement plans are taking some aspects of that district improvement plan and putting it to work with the people on the ground there. So you'll see some similarities, and that's how it's supposed to be. So student achievement, the first core value, is there, which we believe the Harvard Public Schools inspire, prepare, and challenge all students towards academic excellence while recognizing that students reach their individual potential in different ways. And under that heading is the alignment to the Common Core standards. So we had quite a bit of work done, and we have just had more completed. So we're at 65%. That was based on what has happened at HES and what has happened at Bromfield and what we have done as a district. And so we had quite a bit of curriculum work done during the summer. That's indicated down at the bottom of the progress area. And, we're going to continue. We funded again professional development to happen this coming summer with a goal that by the end of 2016, we should be completed. That should be completed, 16, 17. We're also now doing more teachers training teachers. So we have core groups who are expert at it. We've spent a lot of time working with the department chairs so that then when new members come into the district, they have a leader that they can go to in order to access the curriculum and also make changes and improvements. Because one of the things that the principals described well is it's a living document and changes all the time. So if you make an adaptation to an assessment, or you change a lesson plan, or you find a link that works really well, you store it there, and so that other people have access to the same materials. So it's really good as we see some veteran teachers leave the district. In the past, their knowledge kind of just went with them unless they handed something to someone. Well, now that knowledge, which is all of our knowledge collectively, is being put into a place that can be changed and improved as time goes. So it's exciting for us. And next is about assessment. The HES described the fact that the kindergarten assessment that was an expectation by the state is now being dropped, and we're doing our own type of portfolio type assessment, which the state has accepted, and that's after trying to do and training about the one that they recommended, but there have been flaws with that assessment, so we're moving away from it.
There's one little typo there.
Oh, thanks.
So it says kindergarten teachers in consultation with the principal decided, so either to use a different assessment measure or different assessment measures and get rid of the
Yes,
A.
yep. Thank you.
Sure. But I think that's great, that they're gonna do it how they really wanna do it.
I do too. The teachers at Brownfield talked about their rubrics and refining those, and so they're still continuing that critical thinking skills rubrics. We talked a lot with the principals about the DDMs. So we have collected year 1 of the DDMs, and we're now in year 2 collection. For some teachers, that will then lead to a rating at the end of the school year. And we have that figured out, and they've had professional development on how to do that. And the other ending to this here section is that we are now working to update the agreement, which was the agreement with the school committee about education evaluation system, which will now include student feedback and DDMs, which wasn't in the original.
That's a negotiated agreement, isn't it?
It is, yep.
So do you need representation from the school committee? Because that is...
We will once the changes are in play.
Okay.
I'll definitely be bringing it here because it also has to be negotiated on the teacher side.
Okay.
But the document that we're working on right now is not an addition of anything yet. We're not at that part. We're just going over language of what's been in existence and those changes.
Okay.
So I will definitely bring that back to you. Last was about technology and some of the progress that we've made. Of course, we hired our educational technology coordinator. We also hired 3 technology leaders, and that's here. And by the way, the robots for 5th grade arrived today.
Ah, that was
So,
the HST.
Very
grant.
exciting. Yes, that was a Harvard Schools Trust grant.
That's great.
So there was quite a bit of buzz going on about that today at school. And I'll be sure to have them come and share that with us here. Next is personal growth, and in that, the core value is we believe in helping all students attain a balance between academic achievement and physical, emotional, and social well-being so that they become productive, confident, and caring citizens. So you can hear in that the link between that and the vision statement, and that's the whole idea of these core values. So the first one was individual course of study, which we do have new courses which are focused more in the wellness area. So the new courses Jim had already described, I made sure that they were also appear here. And the teachers are looking to attend more professional development for their own, further development for students in mindfulness practices and brain research. So we're working on those ideas. Next was health and wellness education. Teachers continue with movement breaks. It was interesting, this is just one caveat, but there's a teacher at HES who's been using yoga balls as the as seat for the students. And she taught a session at the PD day about the advantages of having this type of seat available for students. And now 2 6th grade classrooms have them. So, there's a direct link to them teaching each other about these things, which was great. Next is partnerships, which reads, we believe that students are best served when schools, families, and communities share a common vision, are now committed to open communication, mutual respect, and collaboration. A little bit more about health and wellness. We reformed the wellness committee, and they've held a meeting, and they're planning on another meeting. And the committee has also met about the youth risk survey data, which is an ongoing conversation, weaves in and out of other conversations, which is great. Expanding parent involvement. We have recently surveyed the HES parents. They are holding some parent information sessions. They're trying to do more of those. They have several more planned for this year, including coffees of general nature, but then also specific topics that may be of interest to families. All right, so next was community outreach. And you have to go over to the next page for that. We are partnering with some local colleges to dual enroll students. And we're also trying to hold some events at Devon's, making sure that if we're thinking of events, we're also thinking of including, for instance, the public forum, trying to do a public forum here and also there. Next is resources, and the core value is we appreciate that the Harvard community provides the necessary resources to best serve our students, and we hold ourselves responsible for the appropriate use of those resources. Technology, that was about the original technology plan, which was completed very early, and in fact we'll have to reconvene that group at the beginning of next year to form the next tech committee. And then student data management. We have finally linked our Power School with Inform, and some data is entered and being used. We have a ways to go to make sure that all the information that may lead us to helpful decisions is in that database, which it's not quite ready yet. But our goal is to be ready with that in some better form by the end of the year. Next one is organizational development. And this is really talking about staffing and where are the needs and where are the growth opportunities. And this had to do with us hiring the technology coordinator, and also looking at where there was some places that we could cut, which included the half-time preschool teacher and the learning support teacher, without negative impact to the students, of course. Audit results, everything has been corrected and implemented, so we're at 100% with the results of the audit. So some of these things should drop off, and new things that we're focusing on can be added, and I can bring those changes. Retail, we are in the cohort this year of making sure that our teachers are receiving the state's free offering of that course. We are looking at plans for how do people get that training once the free period is over. What does that look like? Where do they get it from? So we're putting out some of the local colleges that are offering it and some online resources that are offering those courses.
What's the cost to take that?
Depends on where you get it from. You know, it can be like a regular college course. You can just take, you can get study materials and just take the MTEL.
Oh, okay.
So some people are doing it that way.
Got it. But it's
Different avenues.
the pass rate, is it still difficult to pass?
It is
That was-
difficult to pass.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
If you take the free and you don't pass it, you can take another approach? How do you?
The free is a course.
Yeah.
And as long as you complete the requirements, you are
You're
endorsed.
certified?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. The tricky part is if a child moves into the district that needs these services, the teacher has a year to complete the course. So that's tricky when there's move-ins.
Well, but that sort of also doesn't make sense, because if you have a year, then the student is already gone from your class by the time you actually get the certification if you wait till the end.
That is very logical. Yes, that's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
And in fact, most recently, we have a child moving in directly from China with limited English. That entire grade now is responsible to have the class by next year, and there'll be no offering from the state for that course. So, 'cause it's.
Well, but are we
it's
getting the
closed already.
people who are going to get them next year? I mean, are you also then proactive, because even though he's not in the grade that he'll be in next year, they
Right.
need to have it now?
Right.
Okay.
So, well, when they get
I
that
mean, by the
child,
time
they'll
they
have
get
a
'em.
year, which could be past the time the child's with them. But yes, all of
That's
the
complex.
staff knows, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It is complex. Not an easy thing to
No.
figure. And the last one is maintain and improve school climate. So the principals surveyed the staff. Of course, the staff surveyed themselves with the students' input. We have a diversity committee, and our first diversity event is this Wednesday, where we're having the gentleman who kind of organizes the World of Difference in to speak with the staff for that day. So should be exciting. And that's stated there. And then we're also looking at the text selections in our English classes to change the voice in some of those offerings to be more diverse, which is being taken on by the English department themselves, which is great. So that is sort of all of the major areas that we're working on. But you can see from listening to those things that this does blend directly into the school improvement plans and what's happening at the schools. A lot of buy-in, which is wonderful.
The way it should work, right?
So any questions about the?
Anything, well, I don't know that you actually even need to, but are there anything that need resources that in order to really fully accomplish them that we didn't supply?
No, we really feel like quite a few decisions of funding have directly linked to this.
Right.
Yep.
Anybody else have questions on
I
that?
just had one small question. When you
Sure.
talk about the web-based curriculum tool, that is Atlas Rubicon?
It is,
Okay.
yeah.
Wasn't it?
But there are others out there
Okay.
that just happen to be one we picked. Yeah.
No, you mentioned Atlas Rubicon and then it said web-based curriculum tool. I just want to make sure it was
It is the
something
same.
else that.
Yep. It is confusing, there's all those acronyms.
Right, keep the name straight.
It's hard, especially there's Power School, there's Inform, there's Atlas Rubicon, there's.
Didn't we get a
We
spreadsheet
did.
at one point?
We did a matrix.
Be good to have that refresher course.
Hand that out again.
Yeah,
Yes, we can do that.
good.
Next was our joint goals.
Yep.
And where we are in progress on those. I did not do a full explanation of what progress we've made because, it's come around this table quite a bit. So the first was the science labs, and the commitment is upgrade the furniture and cabinetry in the science labs. We're 10% there because we have a lot of work to do yet.
That's a 2-year initiative.
Yes.
Do you want to
right.
point that out?
That is a 2-year initiative. That's right. It says
Gonna
2017.
use all the 2 years.
The gentleman who I talked to today said that in order to move that project forward this summer, if we would so choose, it would take having an order in by the end of April
Okay,
of furniture.
okay.
The tricky thing is some of the vendors, like the one that I was talking to today, do not do the construction, nor the plumbing, nor the that type of work. So demolition of what's currently there would have to be contracted out. Then they would come in with the furniture and install, but then also the hookups would have to be managed as well. So it sounds like a little complex. The other company who we're meeting with on Wednesday, they organize all of that. So there would be some advantages to that, although the price might reflect that organization of those services as well.
Can you ask them if they're on the state contract?
Yes, I did do that. I had that on. Yeah, so we have quite a bit of work to do there. And then a dashboard, I put at 50% because all pieces are purchased, in working, the connection and input hasn't yet fully taken place. So that really needs some more work.
Are there plans to move that forward at all between now and June, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Now that Chris has managed some of the other more critical, Power Schools running fairly smoothly, and other things, he now is ready to tackle this in a more serious way.
Okay.
And then 75% on fees, which maybe could go up a little bit since I wrote this, to reduce the financial demands on Harvard schools' families by eliminating or reducing bus fees, athletic fees, and/or kindergarten tuition. But our measurement was by February 1st, a recommendation to the Finance Committee to increase funding for the schools while decreasing fees paid by some, if not all, families in the Harvard School District. So I would say that by
Essentially,
February
that's
1st,
100% complete.
we did that.
Because it was outside of our authority to actually
Right.
decrease these fees.
Yep.
So should I update people on that? Because I don't think people necessarily
Sure.
heard back. So the Finance Committee agreed to up our budget by $24,000 to eliminate the need to increase user fees. They declined to authorize an increase above and beyond that, and suggested that if we wanted to pursue the additional 100,000 out of the 124 that we requested, that we take it to all town meeting as a separate warrant article for the town to vote on. They felt that we would automatically do that. I'm not so sure, we haven't had that discussion around this table, but I am concerned about presenting the town with a $500,000 warrant article with an additional $100,000 on top of that. So that needs, and we actually need to sort of resolve that now, because town meeting warrant articles are already due in. I think Finance Committee would make an allowance for us if we wanted to throw that in at this point, but that was the direction that I got back from the Finance Committee. questions, yeah, buts, what ifs?
Are we also asking for something else?
A tractor?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so the.
31, it was 31. I don't remember what it is. I can tell you.
35, now it's 38. I
31,630.
think.
Oh, and then it went down because there was a
Yeah.
trade-in value.
It's around 32,000.
32.
It had a pretty good trade-in on the other
Okay,
one.
32,000.
It's about $32,000 for the tractor.
So the 500,000 for the HES renovation
Yes.
and the tractor. And they did increase our budget by 24,000. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think we can go and ask the town for $100,000. Like, could we ask for some but not all of that? Or would it just seem like we're just fishing around for money? Because
That's a good
that's
chance.
to me what it would seem like. And we're not. I mean, we truly feel that all that should be in the budget, but we didn't get it. So,
Did they indicate whether that well was dried up for good, or it's possible we could ask again next year for?
I think anything that is
Incremental.
substantial. If you're trying to transfer the entire coaching fees or anything of a larger number, it's going to have to go forward as a warrant article.
At some point.
They appreciate the fact that sports are important, that we made a great case for it. I think the fact that we got $24,000 points to that, because that's an up stat. But I remember when I first moved here, there was I think they were going for an override, or was it a? Yeah, so they were going for an override to include the athletic fees in the budget, and that failed. It was a packed meeting, people came out from all over, but that failed. But I think they feel that anything large needs to go in front of the town so that people can choose. Is that where they want to put their tax dollars? Because it will impact their tax rate.
right.
And they are facing it's got down to a pretty tight budget at this point in time, so I don't know what the source of funding would be.
Right,
That never got discussed,
right.
so. It's not like there's just 100,000 hanging out there ready for somebody to take.
I think Alice's, at least in a conversation I had with her, the way that she perhaps suggested us doing it is that we have to line it out for the parents. Would you rather pay for blank or blank in the school budget? But the direction really was, you need to handle it within your school budget because there isn't excess town funding for it. So we either go back to the parents and say, you can pay for, I don't know how you'd even pare down the budget by $100,000 of curriculum materials, or you can pay for sports, or by something of that sort. We have the option at some point. I think we're cutting it a little too close with Devon's funding if we want to ameliorate the fees by dipping into Devon's ongoingly, but that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
So, for purposes of this conversation, I think I need to know the committee's feeling on whether or not we're going to put forward a town warrant article. So, Jennifer, anything you want to add?
I'm slightly of two minds, but I think ultimately, I think that's a big ask anyway. The 500,000 for the HES renovation, and that's just the beginning of that. So I think it would be prudent to stick with that as the big ask, but to know and to spend time thinking about how we want to approach the question of athletics, because it's not going to go away. And do we, and as a group, take time to decide thoughtfully over the next year? Do we want to then present it as a warrant next year and spend time figuring out how to best do that to make sure it is successful if we do that? Whereas I feel like if we decide to do that, maybe it would feel rushed, because
Yeah.
we'd hope for a different outcome from FinCom. So I think that's probably where I'm at.
Nancy, how about you?
I'm a little confused. I mean, when I was hearing through all the discussion through the Athletic Advisory Committee, this is not a new issue.
Right.
It just came up in the last few months. This is something that may stem back even several years worth of discussions and people coming to this group to present the merit of getting more funding for athletics. I think if we brought it to the Finance Committee, then that was a vote that we stand behind that initiative. And so I'm a little confused that we would step away from it because the consequences that we're putting it out to a greater audience and letting people make the choice or make the vote as to whether they would support it or not. The 100,000 would not be added to the 500, right? It would be two separate?
Two separate articles.
Two separate warrant articles. So it's not that you're combining and creating some kind of risk to one versus the other. You know, in other words, it makes it harder to get the building money because now you've increased it from 500 to 600. I mean, they're two independent questions, it sounds like.
I guess
To me.
I'm concerned though that they would compete in people's minds. That someone would think, I want to say yes to the schools, but I'm going to say yes to this and no to that one. If they, but this is me guessing that people would think there was when they think about their money and their taxes, they would think, well, which should I choose? And I wouldn't want them to have to choose
Mhm.
between two really important things, but one that also has a, I wouldn't say it's more pressing, but different timeline perhaps. But that, maybe I'm wrong.
I think because we didn't know until January about the MSBA and what we were going to even be doing with the renovation. And then just finding out about Finance Committee, it does seem very, like all of a sudden, this is now what we, the 500,000, we have to do that. We have to ask that because we have that timeline
Mhm.
now that we've agreed to. And that's, that project absolutely has to go forward. I think with the athletic, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Nancy. I feel like, if we step away from it, and does it seem like it's not important anymore? And I do think it is really important, but I think because we didn't get the whole amount, or even close, I think we sort of need to regroup with the Athletic Advisory Committee, which I did miss that meeting last Tuesday. So I don't know if...
Yeah, we didn't have a decision by the Finance Committee at that meeting.
Oh, right, okay, so it'd be good to talk to them too, to find out, what they think. I mean, I know it's not really a body that can decide whether we go forward with a warrant article, but I would like to hear their reactions.
Timing's a little difficult,
Yeah.
just because I think the warrant articles are due and that group doesn't get together.
Right. Anything else?
No, I guess I just feel like this isn't, the fees are an ongoing situation, whereas the renovation needs to go forward. So in a way, the renovation kind of takes some precedence here. Not that this is an issue that is solved
Right.
at all.
No, it's not.
But I do feel like we got $24,000. I think that's, we gotta hold on to that positive. They could have said no altogether,
Right.
I think. So I really appreciate that.
I hear everything that's been said is valid. I do think it would be, I don't want to back down from it either, Nancy, And I think we also have to be responsible for what we're asking for. So if you, when we were asking for it to be considered, while it would have maybe the same ramifications, I think we were looking to finance to see, is the money in the system, so to speak, to cover this? Now that we know that it's not there now, we're going to have to, what, is it raise and appropriate? Doesn't it affect things a little bit differently if you go to the town warrant article? Is it raise?
It's still, you just have to come up with the funding. The 24 added to it is automatically raise and appropriate.
Right.
But when it's an article, you have to name, is it raise and appropriate, is it borrow, is it from stabilization, is it from capital?
But if you go above the 2.5 tax levy, then it's an override?
Well, you choose if you want to have it go above that,
Okay,
because that then becomes a ballot question as well.
got it, okay.
And so, you know,
Does it only give us the money for the 1 year, though? or
No,
does
it's
that-
built now into our budget.
Does
it's
get,
in the
It's only if
24
it's
is now in the
an
budget.
no, I'm talking about the 100,000.
If it was an article, you just, it's one time.
So that
Right,
is another
doesn't
issue.
handle anything
actually,
anyway.
What happens the next year?
Right,
Right, because the coaches will continue to need to get paid.
Yeah, it's not a long-term
Has to be an
solution.
override.
right, then it would be an override, right, to add it to
Even
the
that-
operating budget?
Yeah.
If it was added to the operating budget, yes, then it would be year to year.
Yeah,
But if it was just a general override
right,
tied to the article,
right,
then it just goes into the total coffers of
Got
the
it,
town
okay.
after that first year.
okay,
It's not, you know, so it has to be in the budget in order for it to stay.
got it, okay.
The Finance committee would have to put it there, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, so,
You would what?
Finance committee would have to put it there.
Right.
Into there, yeah.
Unless you wanted to put it there and take something else out.
Well, and I think that's where they're asking us to
Mhm.
make people have a choice about it, but
That doesn't seem
my
feasible.
concern is that it's not a slam dunk in terms of having it worked out, and I agree, I think it would be a little bit rushed to move forward with something at this point without looking at how are we going to present this, and then how are we going to fund it next year, and then the next year, and what is it that we really need, and so we have to stand up there. We are the representation of this committee to the public, and we have also a commitment to be fiscally responsible. So I'm torn, but I have a bigger concern of having to be the representative of asking for $100,000 on top of $500,000. And while they're equally valid and equally important, and we endorsed both, I'm just not sure how that would play out. And I don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot that if we bring it back in the future, if we go forward now with that and it fails, I think we've undercut our ability to go forward with it in the future successfully. So I'd rather have a really great strategy and a really good public outreach and enough time to get people on our side, rather than now try and put something together in 2 months. So that's my concern.
I think it also would be like, say the athletic advisory committee makes a big commitment to do some fundraising, to form a booster club so that, you know, to make some inroads in areas where we've been talking about.
Right.
And then, you know, next year come at this as, okay, now we are doing this fundraising. You know, we have signs at the track by, you know, whoever, if we could ever get past the sign thing. So, you know, going forward, working in good faith and trying to get funding from all kinds of sources, maybe, you know, that would be part of our strategy too, is to have other things in play
Yeah.
to be prepared
Yeah.
for next year. But you know, it takes having that meeting with the athletic advisory committee to talk about everything.
Right. We need to pull them back in.
Mm-hmm.
So, not hearing, I don't think, a majority to put together a warrant article, but if someone would like to make a motion for that, we can certainly put it on the table.
No, I'm going to defer to the
Okay.
liaison who's been part of this for such a long time, if you're comfortable with going back to the group and continuing the work on this. I'm
Yeah, I
fine
think
with
the
that
group
as well.
wants to. I think they're definitely invested, so we'll keep at it. But, yeah, I do appreciate what you said, Nancy. I think it's really valid.
Mhm.
Yeah, the problem hasn't been solved, nor has it gone away, so we have work to do. Okay. Great, thanks. So I jumped in on the end of your
Yeah.
presentation, Linda. Was there anything else that you wanted to go over on the goals?
Oh, no,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, great. So that's it. We now have some policies to review and approve. We do, which were in the packet.
I can talk about the first one, and then someone from the policy committee can talk about the second one. Subcommittee. The first one is a change in the law, and so Marie Harrington and Sue Frederick had attended a DESE update on the law, and Marie Harrington had also attended some school law update sessions. And so they took our current restraint of students policy and made sure that it was in compliance with the new law.
Okay.
So some of the changes are really, in the past, if staff was trained, they could do escorts and they could do, short holds for students in order to manage the situation. One of the big changes is that now restraints can only be done if the child or another is in imminent danger. So, what that looks like at our schools, there isn't a lot of incidents like this. But if a student would be disturbed and start to throw things, you cannot restrain them unless someone is going to be hurt by that things being thrown. So that's one of the changes, which does change how we do some of what happens at the elementary school, mainly the elementary school. But all the staff has been trained on the new changes, and you can see a couple of them are highlighted here. Also has to do with how quickly you need to get the reports and information to parents, which is always a really good thing, is to make sure that they're informed right away that that's happened. And these types of holds on children have always needed to be reported to the state as well. So we have updated forms to take care of that. So like I said, it just brings us back into compliance with the law that actually went into effect in January. So now this document will keep us in compliance. Any questions about it as you would have read it? Yeah, Nancy.
Not so much a question, but I do have a concern, and I do hope that this is a very rarely needed type of policy. And I did look up the law on the web line from the state, from the Commonwealth. And I can see how this is consistent with that, and I'm not sure what others here around the table thinking when they read this, but when I read the 24 hours, to me, now, I know that the Commonwealth is trying to provide for schools across the state, some of them much, much larger than the Hildreth Elementary School. Many students, thousands of students attending one school. But to me, for any of our families, if one of the students was in this situation, was physically restrained, say it happened at 10 o'clock this morning, and they don't even hear about it till 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, that to me is a very long period of time. I think we have a community small enough, and people know each other really well here, that I don't understand why our principal, associate principal, faculty, somebody from the school can't pick up the phone and call the parent. I'd really like to see the parent called when it's happening. But I wouldn't propose to change the language to reflect that, but I would propose to change the language of our district policy to be less than 24 hours, because I consider that to really be a long period of time. You know, calling the parent today that something happened yesterday morning with your child, to me, that's a really long time.
I will tell you that the practice is absolutely immediately after, things have then settled down. And I have never heard that it took anyone 24 hours to contact. So, I think that's there as the broadest amount of time, but it has never been the practice for that.
So maybe we could say something like that, inform students, parent, and guardian of the restraint as soon as practically possible, and in no case more than 24 hours, or something of that, something to that effect, I think.
Is there anything that would inhibit if we wrote by the end of that school day, or?
What happened at the end of a school day?
Yeah, they may not be reached,
Right.
Which could lead you to not be in compliance
Right, right,
with
right.
the policy.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to, but I think Nancy's point of an addition which says, something like as soon as possible and within 24 hours.
Okay.
So that makes, the impetus is,
Yes.
it's
As
going to
soon
be
as
as soon as
possible.
possible.
Okay. That's great.
And within, then puts you in compliance with the, so there may be a reason, I can't even think of one. But like you said, if it was at the very end of the day and then they did not reach someone
Right.
until the next morning or something like that.
I appreciate that.
Okay,
And so at the
that's a good
very
point.
end of the first page,
Yep.
where that language is. And then my only other comment on this was that it's the highlighted part on the second page where the paragraph is labeled complaints. And it's talking about the parents meeting with the director of pupil services, which sort of surprised me. I would think that the parent would come in and meet with the principal or the associate principal or whoever was more directly involved, unless our director of pupil services is called and reporting to these incidents, and she is the person who's there. It seemed to me that, the relationship between the student is more to the teacher and to the principal and associate principal at each of the schools, and I think with the family as well. I think they're more in contact with their students, their child's teacher, the principal, the associate principal. So to have something as sensitive as this, and then you're going to meet with the director of pupil services, I don't know if the parents even know who the director of pupil services are. They certainly know who the principal is. So that just sort of surprised me a little, that we would say that the parents can request a meeting with the director of pupil services.
I think what they're saying here, Nancy, and it may not read correctly, is it references the principal being in communication with the parents throughout the rest of this. This is if they were not happy with how the principal's procedures went. The next
I see.
person that they go to is the director of pupil services.
I see, okay,
That's how it's supposed to read,
okay,
because it is the principal that's in communication with the parents before that.
I see.
But maybe we need to add, maybe we add at the beginning. Yeah, or add at the very beginning of that sentence, after, working with the principal, students, parents, or guardians who have a complaint regarding it would then
Right.
go. So
That would be
maybe
great.
after working
I
with the
kind of
Yes.
read that sentence to mean that if someone had a complaint specifically about the physical restraint procedures,
I did
which
too.
are prescribed.
Like
And
the policy itself?
Rather than an
The-
incident.
Not the incident itself, but
Yeah.
about if they have a problem, I guess that's even less a complaint, it's more of that if they have questions and concerns about the procedures sort of, mandated or what,
Mm-hmm.
they would
Then
go,
they
they would
go.
go to the
Mhm.
director of pupil services because that person would have that, would
Hmm.
have that knowledge at the top of that knowledge tree there. But that's how I read it. That it was about specifically the
The procedure.
procedure
Yeah.
of interacting with that child that moment.
Is that
So
true,
that seems
though?
like-
I
is
mean,
that-
is that where you want the person to go? Or it seems to me our superintendent would be a good person to speak to if you have a question about the procedure or the policy.
Well, it first does go, if we're talking about chain of command, it is principal, director of pupil services, and then me, which it says there. Because
Yeah.
if they don't have it resolved there, then it next comes to me.
Right.
And it's good to have those layers, because sometimes it can be solved closer to the,
Right, right.
Yeah, I thought it was fine, as long as that's what was meant, that person, if they had a concern with the procedure, would go to the director of pupil services. But I did feel like the policy, I felt like it was clear that they would be working with the principal beforehand.
But
Or other-
in that case, if it does have to do with the procedure, not the incident, then you have nothing in here that
an
that talks
incident.
about.
It talks about the incident,
Right.
and there's a
Right.
complaint. So under the complaint, there
Right.
should be.
I
should
think
be
you can
spelled out
add a
clearly.
layer in there.
procedures. How about after working
Should
with
first
the
approach the
principal?
building principal, I would think, and then if they are not resolved, if whatever, I mean, you would then go to the Director of Pupil Services to correct concerns, followed up by another meeting with the superintendent if that fails or something.
Right.
Okay. I can make that clearer, because that's good.
Because I do think it's
So
kind of
it would
odd,
be-
you would go directly to the Director of Pupil
Mhm.
Services, because people are going to read this and say, what if I don't like what they just did to my student?
So it's really talking about an incident or the restraint procedures.
Exactly.
Restraint
Which are sometimes the same.
And
because it's
or-
about
Right,
that.
right, exactly. The
And
complaint could be
or
about
an
that, but it could be
Yeah,
something
and
else.
or, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, good catch.
Excellent.
Okay, so you're going to come back with rewording for
I will.
next week?
Yep.
Great.
Thank you. It's really helpful to have people read it as a, just from the parent
Right.
angle and see what doesn't sound clear. It's great.
All right, next is KCDE, the grant application and approval process.
This is a first read, so if someone want
Someone needs to read it in
I'll
its
read it.
entirety.
Grant application and approval process. School personnel, students, parents, and community members seeking grant funding for anything school-related should collaborate with the appropriate school principal or superintendent before filing the grant application. This policy applies to local and non-local granting organizations, but excludes state and governmental school grants. A copy of the completed application should be given to the school's principal. The applicant should provide updates to the principal on the status of the application. Any grants applied for without prior collaboration with school leaders may be subject to rejection. All grants covered under this policy are subject to school committee approval at a regularly scheduled meeting. See policy KCD.
Okay. Questions about the policy? So we're suggesting that this be implemented starting next year or immediately?
Whatever way this group decides.
Okay. All right.
Well, if you approved it now, it would go into effect
I
now.
think so.
Right, so if we don't want it to go into effect, I mean, if we want to give some time for people to do this or not, I would just add something effective, blah, blah, blah. Or I think it just goes in and we catch whatever's happening as of now. So this is, are there a lot of grants that are given above and beyond the Harvard Schools Trust grant that are not state or government?
There are some.
There are some?
Yes.
Okay, and,
Do you mean grants or do you mean just money?
yeah, right, well, this is, it says grants here,
Yeah. Just-
so,
And the grant could be money for a specific thing that's been named.
Right.
You know, because when we talked about it at the admin meeting, they were saying sometimes it comes in that way. So the idea is that, so that the principal knows and the teacher doesn't get something that's contrary to
Right.
what, they're trying to do there.
Duplicate
Which is
something.
why I think it should be immediately that it takes effect.
yeah, no, I think that's been our intent all along, is that we didn't ever want something to get here to this table that's been approved and also given the monies out, that we had to then decline. So I think this is the purpose of that policy.
And KCD references gifts.
Right.
The other policy that's
That's different.
referenced.
Okay. I'm fine with the policy as,
Do you want this to be broader and say grant and/or enrichment funding or something of that sort? I know the PTO provides funding to the schools, but does
It's
not
not
go
a
through a
grant.
grant
Right.
process. But I also know it is the PTO's policy to do what this policy here says, and to always go through the principal, so I think that practice is already happening.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to limit this to grants or you want it to be more broad.
does that work if you just say or enrichment funding? I mean, does that sort of capture anything above and beyond a grant? Or is that too broad?
I mean, I think a grant includes that. Because if you've asked for funds for something,
Even though it's
whether
not,
it's the something or whether it's the funds, they're granting it to you.
so even though it's not technically labeled a grant, this would,
Because someone would have asked the PTO for the money, and then the PTO would vote on whether or not to
Grant it.
to grant them.
See, there's that word.
funds. Yeah. So I think it's a more,
It's in there.
somewhat more casual process, but it's the same
Yeah, I think it might
process.
be more confusing if we add to it.
I think so
Okay.
too.
Well, you could also just say members seeking funding for anything school-related. I mean,
Yeah.
you could just take out the grant and then it's sort of
Yeah.
implied. That works.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
And then say
But it
funding,
also
call it
says
funding
before filing
application.
the grant application at the end of that sentence, and there are no grant applications for some of the funding.
Right, so that would just,
But at
for
least
making the request?
It'll at least cover the grants for you,
Yeah, okay,
if that's where the issue was.
right.
I don't think there's any issue with
I
the other
think of it
ones.
being
I agree. All
Yeah.
right, so keep as is and when there's a problem, fix it, otherwise don't. Okay, all right, so this will
So
come
you're not
back. for-
changing that word?
Right,
Right.
so this will come back for a
Yeah.
second approval. Okay. All right, so that's it on the policies.
It is.
All right, next, I had asked, Linda to include in the packet, was a newsletter that we sent out to all families in town, and I don't remember what the cost of it was, but it was not, insignificant. It was thousands of dollars, I think, to get this printed and mailed to every household member. Do you remember, was it
I
five?
know what the license that we get from the town hall, I
Yeah.
think we call it the permit.
The permit, yeah.
That, to send everything to everybody, is about $300 or $400.
But this was multiple pages, so was this, and printing. I think that was part of it. There was a printing cost to
Printing
it.
part of it, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, we could print something like this in our office for less than $300.
Yeah, I think it was double, I think it was large paper folded
Yeah.
again, and mailed out. so-
I think this was printed in our office, though.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd just be the ledger-sized paper.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
Little
Yeah.
booklet.
When we used to send out the budget books, it was about, to buy the paper and to use the permit, about $500.
Right, okay.
So this would probably be a similar thing.
Okay. So I kind of included it not necessarily as we should do this per se, but as a spark to the conversation of, and Nancy was great in bringing this up, is can we be more proactive in public outreach? Very few people show up here at a school committee meeting. It's a little daunting. It's very formal. And we don't always invite them to the table. We just listen kind of thing. But should we simply just be pushing more out? I know other school committees, I saw on the listserv, sometimes the chair does a monthly, a weekly kind of communication out. I think we could maybe do something like that where we have a written communication, maybe someone's willing to, or rotates, someone writes something, a column every month. But I think it would be great if we could use some sort of forum for putting communication out. Maybe now that people are more technology-based, we can also have a page on the website or something to that effect. But I just thought I'd bring it up for people to discuss and see how you guys want to proceed. Thoughts, anyone? This took us a lot of time to put together, but.
Yeah. I think a web-based thing might be the way to go. Maybe cheaper.
Yes.
A
Quicker.
lot cheaper, a lot quicker. I do think you kind of have to, you can't have people going and looking for it. There have to be like a direct link
Out.
that comes, that they, kind of like how the principal's message, with the Bromfield Bulletin, like
Yep.
a one-click thing, or you're not going to get too many people reading it.
Right.
You guys have that page.
We do, we have a
we
page
do.
on our website.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
put it on that, you could get them to put that on the front
We
Well,
can
and you
also
could-
send it out by Alert Solutions.
with a link
With a
or
quick
something.
link, yeah.
I think it'd be nice also still, I think that we should do it as a link, as a web-based document, but to also have a printed, I mean, if it's not elaborate, a printed version that would be able, like in the lobby of HES or Bromfield or in the in the library where
So
they have
people
things.
wanna
So that
print
people want to
copies.
see it, they're looking at other things, they're looking at picking up some other form, they see it, they're gonna be
Yeah.
interested to take it and read it, whereas if it's just shuffled in with the mail, it could
Mm-hmm.
kind of lost, but I think that having it, depending on how often you're doing it,
Yeah.
of course, but
Yeah.
for those old-fashioned types out there,
Mhm.
there are those.
Pieces of paper.
Yeah.
Okay. Nancy, any thoughts?
I think those are great suggestions. I'd be happy to try to put something together as an initial attempt here. I think shorter than this.
Yeah.
Would be good, because people are very busy and it's hard to sit down and read 7 pages, although I'm sure a lot of people did. It was well presented, has a lot of interesting information, and has some nice graphics to it as well, so I think they did a great job.
Patty pretty much
We
took
can
the.
start somewhere, you know, if we start with maybe something on the website, but I agree with the flyer too, that people can pick up and read. We've found that effective with the PTO as well. People do still like to have the piece of paper.
Right. And I think if you had some consistency to it, that people knew that it was always out the first of the month or something, then you'll have more people looking for it, and then it would be actually more useful. I mean, this was
Right.
great, but it just didn't, it was so much work that it wasn't going to be sustainable over time.
Right. So maybe the once a month?
Yeah, that would be
Start with
great.
that as a goal?
Well, and if you're willing to take it on, what Patty did is just asked for people to write something for it. So kind of like
Okay.
Linda does with the Chalk Talk, you could say, okay, what are the principals really want to get out there, or what do we want to put in it? And ask people to write up, so it's not a onus or one person doing it.
Well, I think it's also a great way to communicate with people some of the issues we are facing, such as the athletics.
Right.
That this is the way people know that this is an issue that we're trying to solve, and these are the financial realities, and how. But there is a advisory committee, and people sometimes don't know that, so that becomes really clear, and they understand that it's not a new problem, and it's going to continue. So I think that creates awareness, and maybe when we do need to make an ask at some point, maybe about it. So.
Right. It's great, you could
Yeah.
kind of
So
just
those
take the
kinds of
2
things we could-
agendas
yeah.
from the school committee meetings for that month and look to see what is it that we should push out to people, because not everybody tunes in and not everybody follows
Like,
it.
public forums that we're gonna have,
Yep.
like for the renovation.
Yep.
And that's another way to communicate that stuff.
That'd be great. All right, thank you.
Sure,
Taking
thank
that
you.
on, yeah. All right, so parking lot and next steps. So I had sent around an email just informing people, since our last meeting, the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to support the parking lot project. The Historical Commission voted unanimously to support the project, and the Conservation Commission supported unanimously. So we are 5 for 5, I think it is, or the pond, I'm not sure if I had was here since then, but also the pond committee. So it's a green light all around.
Excellent.
And that would be really great to put in. Because it's not a small thing that we are using monies up to $275,000 to make this project happen. There's a lot of, that could fund the athletic fees for 2 years. It could do technology up the wazoo for $275,000. So there's a lot of things that we could have done with that money, but we really felt that this was the thing to do, and the town will benefit from it also. So the next steps are, I think, as you said in your report, is that they're going to go out with an RFP once Rich gets back from South Carolina. So, and that project should be able to happen over the summer, right?
Yep.
July, June. Well, every day there's a snow day.
Right.
We'll start a
As
day
soon as
later.
they're out.
One snow day.
Right.
I
Any
can
questions?
send you, Nancy, I can send you a PDF
That would be great.
that you might be able to include in the newsletter.
Great, thank you.
Great. And thank you, you were able to make it to the Conservation Commission hearing, so thank you for coming, that was great. And if people have questions about, so we took out some spots, we moved the buffer back, we took out about, total of 9 spots, but then we added, I think, about 4 back in for visitor parking in a different spot. Dumpsters are moving, and we are pretty much following the request of both of those committees in the plan. So if people have questions about any of the revised plans, let me know, but it'll look great. And the lighting is going in, the parking is going in, and People will be, it will be an entry in the capital book because it's a capital expense. We're not requesting those funds, but
Right.
that will also be written up in the capital aspect of things, so people will hear about it at town meeting, which is great. Questions, anybody on the parking lot? Okay, great. All right, Finance Committee decision update, I think I already did. Say about the funds, they have essentially approved our budget as presented with the adding of the $24,000. So kudos to Linda and Lorraine and Mary and you got your your admin team on presenting a budget that really didn't get much pushback at all. I know we cut $90,000 out of it right and left to get it down to the 2.5% increase, but I think that really made a big difference in Finance Committee's ability. And I don't think maybe they even would approve the $24,000 if we hadn't taken pen and paper and worked out a lot of those cuts. So thank you for all that work. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
All for being
Yeah.
through it.
and we should hear an official word back from Finance by when?
I'm not sure because part of it hangs on the articles.
Oh, right.
We don't have all the articles from the selectmen yet.
Okay.
And so the total funding has to all fit.
Mhm.
And if we get to the bottom line and find out that now we're in a negative position,
Right,
they may feel like, oh, now we need to readdress some of the things.
okay.
And the things that they would readdress would probably be what we call the add backs.
Sure.
So for the school, it would be the 24.
Right.
But as things stand now, it does look like everything will be good. And it's February 27th is the final meeting of the FinCom where everybody's done, everything for the book has to be there, and Tim and I start putting the book together.
Okay.
So certainly by the end of this month, it has to be a done deal.
Okay.
Because it's going to be in print.
Great. So you'll give us an update at the next meeting. Okay,
Somewhere down there.
great. Thanks. Okay, we don't have the cable MOU because Kirsten's not here, right? So we'll table that to our next meeting. And now we have the minutes review. Okay, so reviewing the minutes of Monday, January 25th. Does anyone have corrections or edits on the minutes?
I had one on, under the superintendent report.
Yeah.
Bullet, third grade students.
Yeah,
Maybe honed there.
they didn't hone in on?
No, honed their presentations.
Okay, I actually had the same. All right, anything else?
That was,
We have one under the third page, Mary, the paragraph that starts with my name. So this is where we talked about the mural. The sentence that starts with Glenn Kuchar
Yep.
from the MASC advised me that selection and adoption of curriculum materials, I think,
Okay.
would make more sense there.
Sure.
Are made by the principals. And I'm going to give you another two changes. So then the next sentence, the day-to-day management of the school lies with the principals. Susan Mary asked the committee if they agreed that it is an administrative matter, or if they wanted to, and then I'll give you this page.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm suggesting be in there. If they wanted to consider it as a policy matter, and if so, if the painting conflicted with any school policies, as opposed to weigh in that it may be in conflict with our policy. I
Okay,
think
so
it's just a little-
consider it as a policy matter,
And
and
if so,
if so,
comma, if the painting conflicted with any school policies. And I can give this to you,
okay.
if people are all right with that. Okay, great. All right,
I only had one.
yeah,
It's Coralia Franklin. So under the MOU,
yeah,
if you just take the E out, the second E, I
Oh,
believe
you're
her
right.
name is
it is.
just
Actually-
LIA at the end.
Is it Koralia or,
Yes.
yeah?
Coralia.
A,
K-O-R-A.
No E's, just take out the two E's.
And put an A.
Coralia.
Or
Yeah.
yeah.
okay. Koralia.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks for
Thanks.
catching that. All right. Any other edits to the minutes? Okay. Someone want to make a motion to approve them?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from January 25th as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, minutes are approved. Okay, I'm gonna go liaisons, but I'm gonna let Lorraine go first with the financial report, because
It's going to be so easy,
it's so exciting.
because the bottom line is exactly the same. The only changes are, of course, that we've expended some money because we had a whole month from the last one.
Right.
So really, there's no changes. We're still projecting 100% of everything that didn't already have a change.
Yeah.
Whereas the personnel, you had that spreadsheet on, and the other, most of the expenses, there's a few that we knew about, especially in special ed, and if there's a outside funding involved with it, but basically, we're just saying items are 100% spent, to be 100% spent.
Okay.
And as far as things like utilities and stuff like that, too early to tell, because a week ago, we would have said something different than I'd say today. you know?
Right. Right. And overtime for school.
Same
clearing,
thing.
Plowing and all that stuff, right?
That had to have
And a
happened.
budget for it.
Right.
Not too bad yet, though, but
Not too bad.
Yeah.
we don't really have a lot in that line either.
No, no.
Great.
And
Any
it doesn't
question?
look like there's going to be any FEMA money for these storms, so.
No, not
They're
yet.
not that big.
No, no.
No.
We don't want FEMA money, because that's, means we had a whole big problem.
Yes, yes.
Any questions for Lorraine on the budget?
Told you it would be quick.
All right, liaison report outs. I'll start over this side this time. Yes.
I don't have anything because HES school council skipped February. So
Okay.
we meet March 15th, I think.
Great.
So we don't have very much new either. I'm not sure if we met, but just to make sure I've sort of informed you of all the things we're talking about with the Bronfield School Council. Did I mention the Acton-Boxborough Fair that they have, the STEM Technology Fair? Okay, so one of our members of the council is particularly interested in looking for opportunities to sort of expand and introduce more STEM topics into Bronfield. And so he and a second council member reached out to the Acton-Boxborough School District. They have a STEM fair every year where it's primarily, it's a little bit like a science fair, only there aren't projects, there are individuals who come in from different science, math, engineering, technology kind of disciplines and share with the students different things that they're doing. More career sort of type things. There could be demonstrations of projects as well, but they have a very large fair every year. And so we are now thinking of, through their leadership, the two council members, of seeing whether they could put together something for Bronfield. And the idea is it would be in the semester that doesn't have our Bronfield Science Fair, which happens in February. So it wouldn't be a spring, it would be more of a fall event. And it would probably be an evening event. And so they are working with the people at Acton-Boxborough, meeting with them, how do you set up your fair. The Acton-Boxborough people who do this on an annual basis, they have a lot of experience with it, they have a lot of contacts. So we're just exploring the idea of trying to offer a STEM kind of fair at Bromfield next fall. This fall, 2016.
Great.
Yeah, that is exciting.
And that's about it.
All
I
right,
think
cool.
everything else we're up to date on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I missed the athletic advisory committee meeting, so I can't report out on that, but I know Linda was there.
Okay.
You want me to?
Sure.
Yikes.
Sorry.
Let me think back to that
You're now the
meeting.
liaison.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Linda.
no, let me think.
You met with him
We
right
hadn't-
after, I
We
think,
didn't
but-
know the decision yet, but
Yep. We talked quite a bit about fundraising ideas, and there is a subcommittee that hadn't yet met, but they were going to. Jim had met with the captains of the teams.
for
And,
school spirit.
School spirit, ideas for school spirit, and also communication So we're trying to find a way to help the rest of the community know how the teams are doing, almost real time, like a Twitter feed or something like that. So he had brought those ideas to them, but he also recognized that the captains were all seniors,
Yep.
and they were less interested in being very, I mean, they have other priorities right now. So he was asking them to tag a few people on their teams to join into the kind of his advisory group, and then they were going to have another meeting. So that hadn't happened yet, but they will have had that second meeting by the time we have our next meeting. I don't think what else happened with that meeting. I can't recall anything else. There were other things, but I just don't have it. So, sorry.
Very cool. Anything else?
No, I mean, we did the policies.
Okay. Great.
That's it for me.
Cool, thank you. Let's see, the master plan steering committee, oh my God, we're actually nearing the end. This has been a 3-year liaison assignment. Our public hearing is scheduled for March 3rd. That will be a snow date of March 10th, at which point we will be presenting the plan to the public. The planning board it'll be a joint presentation. I don't have a location yet, but.
So that should go into the newsletter as well, Susan?
The master plan steering committee is sending out, I'm gonna let them send it out, but they'll be sending out a postcard soon to advise people of that. You'll see that mailer probably when you get back from February break. And that will have recommendations. I believe they have all been vetted by this committee and Linda, anything that had anything to do pertaining to the schools, so there shouldn't be any surprises in there for anyone. Capital continues to work on the book, the capital entries in the finance book that will be presented at all town meeting. And no changes really. The tractor and the HES renovation feasibility study are the 2 projects moving forward for us. The all boards meeting, I don't think anyone was there. So the upshot of that really was, okay, so now you're going to have to pitch in here. Lorraine gave her report, Tim gave his report, the state of the state. Finance went over really the budget process and all the submissions. And each committee gave an update. I updated people on where we were with the parking lot, with the Hildreth renovation, and the Bromfield house. And I think that's basically it. Did I miss anything that you wanted to
No,
let?
but it was a lot longer than that.
Yeah. Is there anything from your report that you want to make sure this committee is aware of?
No, I just go over the recap and how all the figures come together.
Okay.
Tim does state of the state and I do state of the town.
Right.
So, just to kind of see how the numbers flow and where we get our numbers from and whatever, so.
Right. Okay. All right. I think that's all I had. A side question, the science fair will be the 26th, and we have a award that we give out on behalf of the school committee that in future years, school committee members were forking out money from their own pockets, but we've now budgeted that into the thing. So is there anything that you need from us in order to prepare, and I don't even know what we're presenting.
Yeah, I can confer with you. We certainly have certificates with folders, and then we can talk about the amount.
Okay.
There's a budget for that, so we'll work on that before.
Because you'll need.
Would we be needing to get some kind of a gift certificate? Or could we give the student that wins a letter that said, when we find out your name, we could send you a check from the town? We could do that, but we'd need the
Right,
person's
so we've got-
social security number and name.
Right.
So would it be better to get a gift card or something
A
that
gift
you'd be able
card
to
would be
give the
easier
kid
for
the
us.
gift when, yeah.
Yes, yeah,
So
Barnes and Noble.
what do you want to get? Yeah,
yeah.
Barnes and Noble?
Yeah.
Okay.
Barnes and Noble?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. That would be great. Okay, thanks.
Do you want to
And
agree
how much-
here on an amount?
Do you know how much already?
Well, I think we did 50 per award,
And there's 2, right?
and there's 2.
Okay.
So two $50 cards.
Yeah.
And they-
And then a certificate, appreciation.
And is it just 2 projects, or is it one high school, one middle school?
One
How do
high
you-
school and one middle school.
I see.
And what are the parameters, like what,
That Kirsten is going to have to go over with you.
Okay.
Are you judging with her?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kirsten will give you what
Okay,
you're looking
she's-
for.
okay.
We're a little less defined, whereas
Right.
the Bear Hill Pond Committee has things that they're awarding for. I don't think ours is so closely defined.
Okay.
So you kind of can award, and I think you confer with other judges to make sure the same 2 people aren't getting all of the awards kind of thing.
right.
So it gets mixed around. The only problem is, as I remember from past years, sometimes there's 2 students who get it's usually more than 1 student doing the
Right,
project.
there could be 2 pairs.
So maybe we should get 4
Yeah.
25s or something.
Right.
In case.
In case,
it's-
yeah, and
in
if
case
it's
instead of
one,
two,
we give them
get
both cards.
Yeah, yeah, right, we'll give them both,
Okay.
and if it's,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay, so 4, 20, okay, got it.
All right.
Hopefully there won't be 3 doing it.
So then it comes out of our pocket.
That'll be part of their criteria.
Yes, make sure you don't pick someone that has more than 2 kids on their team.
We can say it's.
Oh, you're by yourself? Oh, that's even better. All right, great. Future agenda items. I won't be here at the next school committee meeting. We will be returning from Hawaii, so I won't be
That's too
here.
bad.
We don't feel sorry.
Jennifer will be
We're
chairing.
happy for you.
And thank you, I'm sorry to rub it in.
Go for it.
Why not?
Future agenda items. So,
Cable MOU.
that, right, that got tabled.
That policy again, right?
The policies come back, yep.
And we might have others though. too.
I'm just thinking, oh,
One of the
we
meeting-
won't know, no, it's too early for all town meeting who's gonna present what. There's 2 articles that get presented, and usually a school committee member will speak to
You
2
can choose
articles.
that whenever you want to choose it. I mean, it's,
Right.
you know,
I mean,
or you
I
can
don't-
even do that the week before town meeting.
You're right.
Somebody's written up
Yeah.
what you're going to say.
I don't mind. Isn't it either? Okay, I'm just gonna check the master agenda audit. Calendar already.
The science
March.
lab, right?
Oh, superintendent performance review process.
That again.
I think that what we did, I think we morphed this. I think we do it at the end of your year, and we invite the former school committee members to participate if they would so choose to do so. So we wait until the end of the year, because so many of your goals are driven till June.
Right, I mean, I remember doing this last year after just getting on, right?
Right. Yeah.
Remember Nancy?
Yeah.
What about the
But
election?
we do a school committee self-eval, which probably should be done with the constituency based. So we should maybe put that, it could be March.
Mhm.
Budget book entry, we've done that. Calendar's done, budget's done.
What about the election?
What about,
I mean, is there anything you need to talk about at the next meeting?
no?
No.
I mean, if anyone has, anyone they have that are interested in putting their name for school committee, please feel free to ask. Have them contact me, or you can talk to them, or anybody can, but we have 1 slot open. So it's always great to bring somebody on who
Wants
is
to be
engaged and
on.
wants to be on.
When's the caucus?
Instead of roping them in like I did with Jennifer.
March 5th?
Caucus is, I think I mentioned it at our last meeting, yes, March
Early
5th.
March.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be there.
They don't have to be a caucus because you weren't.
I was at my sister's
Right,
birthday
I
party.
texted you that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So school committee, well, I don't, so you'll need to work out the agenda. Okay.
Sounds short.
Look at
Some
that.
other things, I'm sure.
You're so glad we met tonight, so you didn't have to do all this. All right, I'll open it up to, Marty's not an interested citizen, so I'll open it to closing of school. One of these nights, you're going to have to be. You'll take your press hat out.
John has told us we're not supposed
Oh,
to.
all right. All right, fair
I
enough.
love that sweater, it's pretty.
Thanks.
Yeah. Closing school committee commentary. I'll start over here now.
Actually, I had just one question. We're supposed to meet on the 18th of April, because it's the 4th. No, it's not, actually. I'm wrong.
That'd be the 3rd.
Yeah. So it's the 20th.
Well, we never meet during a vacation
No,
week.
so that was, I must have it wrong on my calendar.
Okay,
Never mind.
okay. Any other closing commentary? Or that would be it?
All right, I'm going to be thinking of good people that would like to do school committee.
Great.
And go after them.
You'd get a very brave guy to be on the table with
I have
9
no
women,
idea.
that would be great.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Nancy, anything for you? Jennifer?
I've been doing the same as what Mary said, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Mary, Lorraine, Linda, anything for you guys?
I just wanted to, to say that today was a tricky day, but, I'm very happy to report that all of the students arrived home safely, and that a lot of thought about the students and staff safety went into today, and it wasn't easy to decide to. But one of the reasons we didn't go with an early release was in my talks with the DPW, their first line of defense in a storm is to lay down a chemical base and then get to plowing. But it takes a little time for the chemical base to impact the roads. And so dismissing right then would have, in fact, been more dangerous. So holding them until the end, while it created a little bit of angst for some, we believe was the safer call. So it was just tricky, but wanted the public to know and for you to know that a lot of thought was put into and the admin team, the leadership team really came together in this decision.
Just wondering if most of the teachers made it in? Or
They
did you have
did.
a lot of substitutes?
We had 3 teachers absent from HES and 8 from Bromfield, but the 8 from Bromfield, only 3 were weather related. The rest were already other issues. And so it's good.
So I was actually going to close with, I think your job is a thankless job on a snow morning. Because
never gonna-
for every person that writes in that they're upset about that you held school, there's other people that are upset when we do hold school, or
Yeah.
the vice versa. In fact, I almost prompted one of our members of the community who are staunch advocate for having school, and said now would be an appropriate time to send a letter of support, because I know you dealt with some upset parents, and I know you don't make that decision lightly, and I recommend that people walk a mile in your shoes before they complain about whether or not you hold school or don't hold school, because I talked with Linda at about 2, and you were biting your nails for 2 hours, and actually a little longer, because one of the buses had to turn around and go back with some students on it. But thank you for your capacity and for sweating it out and for being the one on the post, because it's not easy, and it's a no-win situation. But the fact that everyone is home and safe, and that you didn't make it lightly, I appreciate that. And I hope that perhaps people can recognize that we live in New England. There is snow, and maybe there are times where you go to school and there's some snow on the ground, and you don't make that decision flippantly. So thank you for being the one and taking the heat. And,
Thank you.
appreciate it. So if there's no objections, I'll consider the meeting adjourned. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Early.
Yeah, that's good.
Remember that, because we went late last time,
Made
right?
it a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
That was definitely a little confusing.
Yeah,
for me,
that
driving up
is a
the
little
bus.
tricky.
All
so the school is
The-
paying, but
yeah,